The first and most basic element of design is line. Lines can be described as a mark made by a moving point. They direct your eye across an image, whether it's a still photograph, a design made on the computer, a painting, anything. The lines you see can be actual obvious lines, or they can be implied or suggested by the borders of edges or shapes. Because line is a building block of design, an element of design, it can be found everywhere you look. Take a look around right now and see if you can find lines in your environment. There are many types of lines to use in your artwork that you're most likely already aware of. Vertical lines are straight up and down. They're perpendicular to horizontal lines. Horizontal lines travel across the width of a plane from left to right or right to left. And we can see how the word horizon is related to horizontal lines. The sun sets in the horizon, so you can remember it that way. A horizontal line has a slope of 0, and the equation of a horizontal line is y equals b. Diagonal lines are lines that travel any straight direction that's not horizontal or vertical. Zigzag lines are a series of diagonal lines that have joined end to end. Curved lines bend in any amount of degree. They can be gently wavy or tightly wound into spirals. Line variation keeps works of art interesting. They can be described as long, short, anything in between. They can be thick, thin, smooth or rough, continuous or broken. Contrast, a word you'll hear a lot about very soon, is a great way to describe the differences in types of lines. A contour line describes the border around objects. It can outline a face or draw attention as a box in an advertisement. Contour lines contain and exclude. Contour lines tell the viewer that the things that are inside are different than the things that are outside. A decorative line is used to embellish. In this example, a decorative line is underlining text, telling the viewer that this word is important. in that it's more important than the other words. Dividing lines separate space. The lines between columns of text are dividing lines, and so are the lines separating menu items. Maybe a dividing line tells us where one list is separate from another list, or helps us categorize objects away from each other, dividing them into sets, like a fraction. Anytime someone draws a series of 3 or more points, your mind will fill in the line between them. Implied lines can look like a lightly drawn, broken line, a series of dashes, or they can be precise and exact, like evenly spaced marks. A row of menu items on a website, for example, create a line. The important thing to remember about implied lines is that they don't show that there's an object or border there. The viewer has to figure that out on their own. Sometimes an implied line is not a line at all. Elements that cause your eye to create emotion are considered an example of psychic line. An arrow that points at another object, for example, is a psychic line because it causes you to look at something. A gesture line is a quick and rough continuous line that can be used to capture form and movement. Generally speaking, they're used when an artist is quickly studying the shape and motion of the human form. When used in comics or storytelling illustrations, they can show that a car is moving fast, that someone has quickly turned, or that there's energy moving on a specific drawn direction. Gesture lines are great at quickly communicating dynamic movement and action. The shape, orientations, and connections of lines to another can form specific meanings and implications about those shapes. Thick strokes are seen as strong and sturdy. Thin strokes look like they're fragile and elegant. Vertical orientation of lines look like they're proud and dignified, and horizontal lines can seem calm and comforting, like a body of water. Diagonal lines can imply progress or depreciation, and they all have the ability to create a sense of tension and excitement. As a graphic designer, learn to think about how you can use straight lines and curves, contours and gestures, and all the different types of lines combined to create an impact with your design. Carefully choose the lines you use and let them work to communicate to your viewer and create visual interest.